Winston Kawesi for sign language interpretation and translation. Kenya's Supreme Court has concluded a hearing petition seeking to overturn the outcome of the August 9th presidential election. During Friday's proceedings, lawyers of the petition accused the Electoral Commission of failing to comply with orders to open servers for scrutiny. Lawyers representing veteran politician Raila Odinga urged the Electoral Commission accused the Electoral Commission of failing to comply with orders to open servers for scrutiny. Lawyers representing veteran politician Raila Odinga urged the court to nullify President-elect William Ruto's win, citing alleged irregularities. In their rebuttals, lawyers for the respondents, who include Mr. Ruto and the Electoral Commission, mounted a spirited defense asking the court to dismiss the case because no evidence had been provided to prove the elections were rigged. It will be an anxious wait for the ruling that could change Kenya's political landscape. The judgment will be made on Monday. Off to South Africa, more than 30 suspected illegal miners were arrested yesterday during a police operation in South Africa's Benoni town in Gauteng province, Sowetan Live reports. The suspects, aged between 13 and 54, were found to have explosives and other mining equipment, according to police spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Mavela Masondo. He said they will face charges for their activities, possessions and other crimes. And in Asia, a military-run court in Myanmar has sentenced Aung San Suu Kyi to a further 3 years in prison on election fraud charges, according to her lawyers. Ms. Suu Kyi, the country's former leader, has now been sentenced to 20 years in prison on 11 counts, with several charges remaining. She denies all the accusations, and the trials have been condemned by rights groups as politically motivated. If convicted on all charges, she could face almost 200 years in prison. The new sentence included hard labor, according to her lawyers. The 77-year-old Nobel laureate has spent most of her time in detention under house arrest in the capital, Nay Pyi Taw. The public and media have no access to the closed-door hearings, and the military has prevented her lawyers from speaking to journalists. The court found her guilty of committing fraud. Off to Europe, Australia is raising its cap on permanent migration for the first time in decade to help fill massive workforce shortages. It will take up to 195,000 people this financial year, an increase of 35,000. The pandemic and Australia's toughest border policies have exacerbated staffing gaps in many sectors. Workers from countries including China, India, and the United Kingdom, Australia's top sources of migration, are needed to fill them, according to the government. There are more than 480,000 job vacancies across the country, but with unemployment at almost 50-year low, employers are struggling to fill the gaps. The hospitality, healthcare, agriculture, and skilled trade industries have been particularly hit hard. Climate activists have glued themselves together around the Speaker's chair in the House of Commons. The protests from Extinction Rebellion UK were on a guided tour of Parliament when they took the action, according to a spokeswoman. Members of Parliament are currently on their summer break and are due to return next week. Other demonstrators have been pictured draping banners outside Parliament. Extinction Rebellion spokeswoman Nola told the press around 50 people are taking part in action in and around the Palace of Westminster. She added the activists were calling for a democratic system that allows ordinary people to be consulted on climate change issues. A House of Commons spokesperson said they are aware of an incident on the parliamentary estate and are currently dealing with the situation as a matter of urgency. And moving on, salvage teams have rushed to pump fuel off a grounded ship after it collided with a gas tanker off Gibraltar and began leaking fuel into the sea. Authorities said there had been significant leak from the OS-35 last evening, and booms were deployed in an attempt to stop the oil spreading. By this morning, the British Overseas Territory said 80% of the ship's diesel fuel had been removed. The chief minister described the next 48 hours as crucial. Workers would begin pumping the ship's heavy fuel oil, which was the most polluted fuel on board, according to Fabian Picardo. No one was hurt when the bulk carrier collided late on Monday with the tanker Adam LNG, which was carrying liquefied natural gas. And in Asia, a leading pro-Taliban cleric is among 18 people killed in a blast outside a mosque in the Afghan city of Herat. Mujib Rahman Ansari died alongside his brother, members of his security detail, and civilians gathered for prayers in a suspected suicide blast. It is not yet clear who is behind the attack, which the Taliban denounced as sinister or cowardly. The killing is the latest in a string of assassinations of prominent pro-Taliban figures in the country. According to police, Ansari was arriving at Galzaga Mosque to lead Friday noon prayers when a suicide bomber kissed the cleric's hand and detonated an explosive device. Unverified images on social media appear to show a number of bloodied corpses lying amid a scene of devastation outside the mosque compound in a western Afghan city. Locals say at least 23 people were wounded in the attack, but local reports suggest that total casualty figure could be significantly higher. Finally, Argentina's vice president has narrowly avoided assassination after a gunman's weapon jammed as he aimed at her. Footage shows the moment Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner found herself face-to-face with the loaded weapon. The former president was outside her home, surrounded by a mob of supporters who back her in the fight against corruption charges. Police say the gunman, identified as a 35-year-old Brazilian man, had been taken into custody. They are attempting to establish a motive for the attack on the left-leaning politician who was Argentina's president from 2007 to 2015 and its first lady for 4 years before that. President Alberto Fernandez revealed the gun was loaded with 5 bullets but failed to fire when triggered. Well, that brings us to the end of this evening's news update. I remind you of the Karamoja Cry. We are raising funds to deliver food relief to the people of Karamoja. Our very own are dying of hunger, and that is why we call upon you to join us as we salvage the situation in the northeastern region. Please join us by sending your seed to the numbers that will be availed in the services, or you can bring your seed at the Miracle Center Cathedral. You will be blessed. You will hand it over to the pastor who will pray a blessing upon you, and you will be tremendously blessed. We are delivering 50 kilograms of food to each household in Karamoja. A meal contains rice flour, maize flour, millet flour, oats, milk, sugar, and very many boosters that have minerals that can help them revamp and re-energize their lives so that they can be able to get back on their feet and be able to sustain themselves in the remaining part of the year. Well, God bless you as you sow your seed. And also, tonight is Friday overnight here at the Miracle Center Cathedral. It's a miracle overnight. Come and join us as we spend time in the presence of God. He will be, Pastor Robert Kayanja will be praying for the sick. We'll be having Holy Communion. There will be great testimonies, great praise and worship. Come and join us. You'll be tremendously blessed. God bless you. Enjoy your evening.